So Berserk, a manga series that's been going on since the 1980s, and I would say it has a cult following, but that probably doesn't do its fan base justice because it's really successful. And rest in peace to the guy who made it. God rest him. Anyway, while I was in Arkansas visiting my grandma, I was like keeping up with certain news. One of them was certain outrages going on. Or at least I think it was while I was in Arkansas. And I remember It's a Gundam did a video talking about the the nontroversy about like the normies discovering Berserk. I think this was kind of a joke that's been online for a while. Like there are two things that would probably make the normies' head implode if they ever saw it. One of them was redo of Healer. The other was Berserk, or maybe it was just redo of Healer, and I was just thinking Berserk would do it for him also. But anyway, I got the first deluxe volume of the manga while I was in Arkansas, and I just wanted to give my first impression of it, which is the art is fan-fucking-tastic. Like, I've been trying to swear less, but yeah, it is so freaking amazingly done. And the story, from what I've read, like I'm halfway through it still because I'm a slow reader, but I do kind of like the character. I like how it opens with basically, you're seeing Guts have sex with the demon before he puts his gun hand in her mouth and blows her head off, or I think it blows her mouth or the back of her head off. But anyway, it like I said this to Charizard, it is definitely a interesting beginning or opening scene, or has an interesting opening point, and actually I probably should have backed up. I was going to say this is actually something I've been aware of for a while. Like, I think I had heard of Berserk once before 2018, but then in 2018 when the Goblin Slayer controversy happened, or non-controversy, and people were bitching about that, and I discovered It's a Gundam, then it became like something that I was fully aware of, and I was kind of like putting off getting it to see if the author would live to finish it, but the controversy gave me some motivation to want to read it, I guess. That, and I found it by accident at a comic shop. Anyway, this whole controversy is kind of stupid because, and I am not doing it justice how stupid this controversy is, because It's a Gundam did a far better job of describing how stupid this is. Because the people who are losing their shit over this are the same people who probably don't crack open a history book and read about people like Vlad the Impaler, who, by the way, is probably one of history's most interesting individuals. But anyway. And I just think it's an interesting series. I plan on getting the rest later on. I'm still trying to save up to get a PC, so it's going to be a while. But either that or I'll get one from art. Anyway, the thing that I think really flies over these people's heads about Berserk is it is a dark fantasy story. And it deals with dark subjects like, I don't know, moving past a traumatic event. I mean, that is the most evident with Berserk. And the funny thing about Guts from the story is I often see women portrayed as being victims, and you see the aftermath of being the victims of struggle snuggling or some traumatic event, and I have no sympathy for them usually. I have no idea why. They just come off as insufferable, entitled pricks that I have no sympathy for. With Guts, not so much, because I haven't even gotten to the part in the story where he goes through the traumatic event. You're just seeing the fallout of it, like how he acts in the aftermath of it. And I think it's because I know what happens to him down the line that I actually have sympathy for him. So maybe either that or it's just I have more sympathy for guys than I do women, because women, well, I do kind of have some sympathy for them, but I'm just saying, like, guys, we get more shit usually. Like, women, the worst thing you have to worry about is, actually, you have a lot of things to worry about. Actually, I should probably stop before I say something stupid I'll regret. Point is, a guy just usually has to put up with has a lot more shit, and the option and the possibility of what happens to a woman happening to a guy also just compounds to, like, man, it cannot get any worse, can it? Actually, probably could, but anyway. Yeah, I think those controversies too, because it flies over their head that it both has like violence against women, and the funny thing is, all this violence stuff, they only have outrage over the fact it's happening to women. The main guy, Guts, he goes through so much traumatic bullshit, but that gets overlooked because he's a guy. like I've said this before and I'll say it again, society sees men as expendable. Which, granted, some men have not exactly helped the situation. Like, I like Shadiversity, but I sometimes disagree with him on how men should react in certain situations. Like, we are supposed to be sacrificial lambs, I guess. I should know that's a disingenuous kind of way of describing his beliefs on certain things. But anyway, so you see all this violent stuff. Like, you see men carrying around dead people on spears. I think there are men, women, children. And they lost their shit over that. But this isn't really that shocking, especially if you read stuff like, if you read about people like Vlad the Impaler or watch documentaries on him, the shit he did, like, he did more than just impale people. Like, he nailed babies to their mother's chest. He impaled hundreds of people. Like, he had a forest of impaled victims. He had, and these weren't Turks he did this to. These were his own fucking people. Some Turks, yes, but he also did this to his own people. Men, women, children, the elderly. If you were not of use to him, you were dead weight. And in some ways, that kind of violence is part of the world that Guts inhabits. Like, it's a dark, dark world where shit happens. There are monsters everywhere. There are demons. And so this kind of stuff would be expected. And it's a very dark, mature story. So if you can't handle that kind of thing, avoid this thing like the plague. Like, really avoid it, because yeah, I'm hoping to do my own video for Guts in the future. Like, I have a series planned called Character Spotlights. I'm hoping to do one on Guts at some point. He's on the list of them. But yeah, the controversy is just, as always, stupid. But here's the thing that separates it from the Shield Hero and Goblin Slayer controversy. It is even more asinine because Guts and the Berserk manga has been around since the 80s. It's almost 30-something years old. Or maybe it is 30-something years old. So they had plenty of time to know about this stuff. It's just they don't care about something unless it's popular. So I say gatekeep these fuckers. Tell them to fuck off. Or to screw off or whatever. Because this kind of shows that they have no interest in it. They just want to change it when it's not to their liking. And I will bet you money that I'm going to be, after this, I will be seeing lots of people talking about articles saying Berserk needs to change. I mean, we already saw some like this when, like early on when it happened, you saw some of these dipshits saying, oh, they were good, glad, what was his name? Miura was dead? Or that he deserved to die the way he did, to which I will say to every one of them, if they happen to see this or hear this, go to hell. You sanctimonious snowflakes. But yeah, it's a good manga from what I've seen so far. I can definitely see why Charaza and It's a Gundam love it so much. The story, it definitely like opens with a character that you probably would not like initially, and it gradually reveals more. And then you kind of get to where, oh, so that's why he acts the way he does. Now, I have the benefit of knowing what happens to him ahead of time. And I will say this up front, I'm not bothered by the dark content of this story. I don't think it's a problem. I don't think it's inexcusable. I will agree with, some of my friends on Discord will probably disagree with me on this, but the whole thing they like to tell me is it has way too much struggle snuggling in it. Now that I've started to read it, I would probably want to say in response to that, that's kind of the point. You're supposed to show a dark, messed up world. And in some ways, it shows how life probably was like back in the day. If you went back a few centuries to certain circumstances where violent people were in charge of a situation, they probably did some really messed up shit. Some stuff you would not want to experience or see someone else experience in your lifetime. But yeah, that's all I can really say about it. The art is really good. The story is kind of depressing, actually. But then again, I think as It's a Gundam pointed out, that's kind of like how life is for a man. It's depressing. Things don't always go the way you want it to. And Guts certainly seems to be epitomizing that from what I've read so far. And that's all I have to say about it. That's my first impression, is just it's interesting. I will defend it for now because, well, yeah, it's like I said this once in a video for I think it was Monstrous Monsters. There's a kind of a point to, well, I didn't say this, but the cinema's kind of the same. There's a point to, like, using this dark stuff to tell the story. There's a point to it. Or it's being used for a reason or for a purpose. Or at least that's what I'm not going to think. I don't believe Miyamura was, or Miura, or whatever his name was. I forget it. Kentaro Miura was his name. I don't think he was a misogynist. I do not believe he did all this just to make gore porn. I like to think he was trying to tell a dark story, and from what I've seen so far, it seems like he succeeded. And I'm sorry he's gone, and that he didn't live to see the story finished. But to quote a certain singer, that's life. And that's also, I think, how I'll end the video is, screw the haters, to hell with them. Miyamura did nothing wrong. The story looks awesome so far, and I can't wait to read more of it. Although it's probably going to be a while because the process for these things, they burn through a wallet about as fast as Fate Grand Order. So, have a nice day, and remember the game was rigged from the start.